Welcome to the RNL Revolution Nothing Less show. This is our 81st episode on December 2nd, 2021. My name is Andy Z, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. We mean what we say in the name of our show. Any solution other than revolution to the monumental and monstrous problems and outrages that humanity faces is a bitter joke. The system we live under today, capitalism, imperialism, in its relentless, competitive, dog-eat-dog drive for profit, devastates humanity and the planet. The RNL Revolution Nothing Less show confronts this problem straight up and by digging down and revealing its roots. More, we bring the liberating solution of an actual revolution for the emancipation of all humanity. Turning away from seriously and scientifically confronting the need for revolution at this moment when the future of humanity hangs in the balance does great harm. It accelerates the devastation of the environment, potentially to the point where much, if not all of humanity, couldn't survive. Turning away from the reality we face allows this system to pulverize the lives of hundreds of millions of people and to condemn billions more to lives of desperation, degradation, disease, with their lives unnecessarily cut short, spirits crushed, with humanity deprived of all that potential to create a far better world. Revolution Nothing Less is what we, the Revcoms, revolutionary communists who base ourselves on the new communism developed by the revolutionary leader Bob Avakian, bring to you every week on this show. For the past 6 months, we have been sounding the call, a declaration, a call to get organized now for a real revolution from the Revcoms. A document for this extraordinary and rare moment in history in this country when an actual revolution has become possible because, as this declaration says, quote, society is being ripped apart, those who rule are locked in a bitter fight among themselves, and they cannot hold things together in the way they have in the past. Bob Avakian has deepened this analysis of the declaration in a pamphlet this past July titled, "This is a rare time when revolution becomes possible, why that is so, and how to seize on this rare opportunity." In this pamphlet, Bob Avakian further develops the strategy to go forward from where things are at today, and he deepens the analysis of this rare time, writing, quote, "These divisions among the ruling powers and in the larger society cannot be resolved within the framework that has existed and has held things together for nearly 150 years, since shortly after the end of the Civil War, which led to the abolition of slavery. They cannot be resolved on the basis of the capitalist democracy that has been the normal means of capitalist rule, which is nothing but dictatorship for so long." He then goes on to say, quote, "Something radically different is going to replace the framework that has existed for all this time," end quote. Today, we are announcing on this show that Bob Avakian has completed a major work, a comprehensive analysis and road forward in this rare and extreme situation. He has fleshed out a remarkable strategic approach for what is to be done now. And this work will be published on Revcom.us on December 13th, 2021, and then 3 days later, we'll begin digging into it here on the RNL show on December 16th. The title of this history-making work is this: Something Terrible or Something Truly Emancipating? Profound Crisis, Deepening Divisions, the Looming Possibility of Civil War, and the Revolution that is Urgently Needed. A Necessary Foundation, a Basic Roadmap for this Revolution by Bob Avakian, revolutionary leader, author of The New Communism. In speaking of this new work, I do not say the words history-making as hype. Think about it. Two sharply opposed futures. Today, many agonize about what looms as the terrible future. The contours of a radically reactionary, murderously oppressive, and destructive fascism flash across screens, impacting and costing lives every week. And despair grows that the Democrats have no answers. This future is made even more frightening because all too many of the people who should be confronting and acting against all of this are turning away from this sharp turn of the brutal reality that is upon us. Yet, Bob Avakian analyzes that out of this horrific situation, a positive and liberating future could be wrenched. That is why, if this talk goes out far and wide, if people hear it, read it, speak of it, and work to realize its liberating, emancipating strategy and vision, it will be decisive to making history. Bob Avakian surfaces what is not apparent in the swirl of the news and the madness of U.S. society today, the real and the rare chance to make revolution, going deep and showing why this is so, how to go to work on identifying, working to ripen, and then seizing on that opportunity is what Bob Avakian gets into in this talk. This Sunday on December 5th, the Revolution Clubs will be previewing a section of this talk in a few major cities in mass meetings. You can find the details of these meetings at revcom.us, our website. Who should come to these meetings? A declaration, a call to get organized for a real revolution opens with this: everyone who can't stand this world the way it is, who is sick and tired of so many people being treated as less than human, who knows that the claim of liberty and justice for all is a cruel lie, who is righteously enraged that injustice and inequality go on and on and on despite false promises and honeyed words from people in power or those seeking power. Everyone who agonizes about where things are headed and the fact that to be young now means being denied a decent future or any future at all. Everyone who has ever dreamed about something much better or even wondered whether that is possible, everyone who hungers for a world without oppression, exploitation, poverty, and destruction of the environment, and everyone who has the heart to fight for something that is really worth fighting for. You need to be a part of this revolution, and you need to be at these meetings. After this, going forward, we're going to be scheduling some national Zoom calls for people who can't make it to any of these meetings, people who are living in different cities around the country. Once again, Bob Avakian has written a major new work, Something Terrible or Something Truly Emancipating: Profound Crisis, Deepening Divisions, the Looming Possibility of Civil War, and the Revolution That Is Urgently Needed, a necessary foundation, a basic roadmap for this revolution. Now with this, we want to go to playing a poem by a Revcom poet, a revolutionary rhyme for this historic time that captures this moment, all the things that hold the people who most need this revolution back, and calls on all of us to rise to this moment. And after the poem, we're going to show an important excerpt from a talk by Bob Avakian, followed by an interview that Sunsara Taylor, my co-host, did with Justin Blake, the uncle of Jacob Blake, who was shot 7 times and paralyzed by the Kenosha, Wisconsin police in August 2020. Then in the protests that followed, 3 Black Lives Matter protesters were shot, 2 killed by the fascist white supremacist Kyle Rittenhouse, who was acquitted of all charges last week. And then to close today's show, we will have a brief first reflection on the Supreme Court hearing yesterday on the future of women's right to abortion by my co-host, again, Sunsara Taylor. So now let's listen and watch a revolutionary rhyme for this historic time.
A revolution rhyme for this historic time. Some still think it's smart to act a fool with make-believe cool, to mock and stalk and kill each other, using and abusing one another, selling women, slanging dope, chasing money, squashing hope, when what we really need is heart to fight for what is right and know how to overthrow that big-time enemy that keeps us all from being free. This system, with its savage power, keeps us down, makes life sour. To hell with politicians posing as our friends. With them, this nightmare's never gonna end. And the living dead who straight up hate us, twisted fascist zombie brains. Prejudice makes them insane, like orange-head Donald Trump, that woman-hating racist chump. And all those who want us dead are living in constant dread, down on our knees praying while they keep on slaying. The police who slaughter, suffocate and smother, then do it to another and smirk with a vicious grin when we kill each other again. With this shit we're done. There's nothing ever really won. It's time to quit. revenge, that endless cycle. Kids can't play or ride their bicycle. So let's go for the real solution. Get with the Revcoms. Revolution. Get thousands, then millions just like us. Don't let the capitalist powers psych us, get us making bad decisions when there's the science, strategy, and plan, leadership, and vision from, no lie, an old white man. B.A. Bob Avakian. He's for real, not faking it. Revolutionary from the days with the Black Panthers. He's kept on deeper this whole time after. There's a real chance coming to get free because those who rule us are now at each other's throats. But will we dare to make the most of this rare time we're living in? It's harder now to fool us with their talk of democracy for all. Their system needs to fall. We've got the science to school us. Their whole thing's ripping apart. But do we have the heart to rise above this shit and get ourselves fit to do what cries out to be done with so much that could be won? We need to get busy. Make the oppressors dizzy as we get organized and ready, working steady for the hour to bring our power. If you're black or brown or any other color, show that you've got the valor, the heart to fight for what is really right. Don't listen to any mess about going for something less than bringing down this system and the clowns who front for it. They're not fit to rule the earth. Their system's worth less than the foulest trash. We need to smash it, break it apart, heal the scars from living how they've had us. So join with the ones that next street over. No more trying to blast us. Unite with people far and wide. Sisters, brothers, all justice lovers who can be on our side. These capitalist oppressors, cold-blooded aggressors, even with all their guns, the time has come to work so we can put them on the run, fighting together to put an end to all their madness and begin to make a world, a way worth living, a new day, a better way to be, emancipation for humanity.
So now we want to present to you an important film clip from a talk that Bob Avakian gave in 2018, why we need an actual revolution and how we could really make revolution. A section of this talk that is extremely relevant to what we have to do now to prepare for the revolution that we spoke about in this new work. But first, before we get to that film clip, I want to just say a few words about Bob Avakian. You've heard about him a lot already today, but there's an article on our website, revcom.us, every week for people who are new and also people who have been following this movement, who really want to understand what Bob Avakian has done. It's titled Bob Avakian, a radically different leader, a whole new framework for human emancipation. And it begins with this. Bob Avakian is completely different than the endless stream of bourgeois politicians who are put forward as leaders, whose goal is to maintain one variation or another of this system of capitalism imperialism that is founded on and perpetuates itself through cruel and literally life-stealing exploitation, murder, oppression, and massive destruction in all parts of the world. BA is a revolutionary who bases himself on the scientific understanding that this system must be overthrown through an organized struggle involving millions of people and replaced with a system that is oriented to and capable of meeting the most fundamental needs of humanity and enabling humanity to become fit caretakers of the earth. Bob Avakian is the architect of a whole new framework of human emancipation, the new synthesis of communism, which is popularly referred to as the new communism. So as I said, this excerpt that we're going to see from part 2 of the film on how we can really make revolution goes into how we get organized, spreading the revolution. It gets into what the revolution clubs are. It gets into how we impact society and accumulate people for the revolution. It gets into what we call the 3 prepares. So all this is some background that should enable people to be in a good position to hear this new talk come the Revolution Club meetings this coming Sunday. So let's watch.
First, it is important to understand that although it is true, as I have said in the New Communism, that revolution cannot and will not be made just by spreading the idea of revolution around and perhaps getting some positive responses, thumbs up. At the same time, however, it is also true that spreading the word about this revolution can itself be very important revolutionary work, an important part of building the movement for revolution. The fact is that among those who really need to know about this, including those who most desperately need this revolution, very few have even heard about it. And they are living with the belief that this world as it is the only one that's possible. And for many, this means that on top of being subjected to continual brutality, degradation, and torment, they are suffocated by the lack of hope. Raising people's sights to the possibility of a radically different world can not only bring hope to people on a scientific basis, but can also awaken a potentially powerful force for the revolution that could make this hope a reality. For these reasons, we need to be on a mission to spread the word, to let people know that we have the leadership, the science, the strategy and program, and the basis for organizing people for an actual emancipating revolution. Here again is the importance of the point I emphasized earlier about the great strengths we do have and what is still missing. Masses of people who catch the worst hell under this system and those who were sickened by the endless outrages perpetrated by this system, who need to be brought forward wave after wave and develop into conscious revolutionaries and revolutionary leaders. Spreading the word, particularly as this is done together with others in a planned, systematic way, can be an important step in joining the organized ranks of the revolution and taking part in the process of building the revolution. A crucial next step in making this revolution real is that thousands need to get organized into the ranks of the revolution now, while millions are being influenced in favor of this revolution. Getting organized into the ranks of the revolution means acting together with others in a unified way, as an organized force, guided by the strategic plan and leadership for the revolution, building the revolution among broader masses of people, while also getting deeper into the principles, methods, and goals of this revolution, the basics of which are concentrated in the points of attention for the revolution. A key form of revolutionary organization are the revolution clubs, which live by, propagate, and fight for those points of attention. The core of the revolution clubs are people deeply committed to revolution who closely follow the leadership of the Revolutionary Communist Party, which has the basis in the New Communism to provide overall leadership for the revolution. But the revolution clubs also need to reach out to and involve growing numbers of people who are new to the revolution. The revolution clubs are a means through which people can take part in and powerfully represent for the revolution in an organized way as they learn more about the revolution and advance toward joining the party. Networks of people working together to spread the word about and organize people into the revolution need to be built and expanded in all parts of the country and linked together. In areas where the party and the revolution clubs have not yet established an organized presence, or in circumstances where people have not yet come into direct contact with this organized presence of the revolution, but have become aware of the core principles and goals of the revolution, they should reach out to and involve others they can draw forward around those core principles and goals. They should link up with the central leadership of the revolution for assistance and direction in organizing a revolution club among the people they are bringing into the revolution, on the basis of the points of attention for the revolution, which are included in the pamphlet, How We Can Win, and are posted at revcom.us. A crucial connecting link in all this is the party's website, Revcom.us, and newspaper Revolution, which sharply expose the crimes of this system, scientifically analyze why it cannot be reformed, and give guidance and direction for people to work in a unified way for the revolution. In everything we do, it needs to be kept clearly in mind and boldly put forward to people that whatever part of the country we are in, and whatever the size of our forces at any given time, we are doing all this as part of a national movement, together with people in other parts of the country, aiming to impact all of society and building a revolution to overthrow the whole system with the whole world in mind. An important principle and method in organizing people into the revolution is the understanding that while revolution requires serious commitment, people's level of commitment will, at any given time, essentially correspond to and be grounded in what aspirations have been awakened or brought forward in them, and what they are coming to understand is required in relation to that. And this commitment should proceed from what people themselves have been won, yes, through struggle, even at times sharp struggle, to see as a necessary and essential contribution to the revolution. People can start with basic tasks that they can readily carry out and feel confident doing, which make a real contribution to building the revolution. And they can learn to take on more responsibility as they gain more experience and a deeper understanding. The important thing is that they are part of the process of building the revolution, together with others. These principles and methods should be kept clearly in mind and applied at all stages of people's involvement with the revolution, to enable them to continue in advancing in understanding and commitment. At this point, when the ranks and the reach of the revolution are still way too limited, and a key immediate objective is to organize thousands into the revolution while working to influence millions, there is great importance to critical masses of organized revolutionary forces in different parts of the country, among those who catch the worst hell under this system, and among broader sections of society, especially youth and students. A critical mass means a force which, although it may be small at first, has sufficient numbers and determination to fight through obstacles to have a real impact on the political terrain. This relates to an important process that I discussed in the New Communism, accumulating organized forces for revolution. As I put it there, it's not just accumulate over here off in some corner. It's accumulate impact, accumulate further, impact more, accumulate further, and on and on and on, even while taking into account the larger picture of what's happening out in the world. What do I mean by accumulate impact? I mean that when you have organized forces, you can have a magnified impact on political situations, such as protest and resistance, and on the political terrain overall. You are affecting the terrain by having organized forces united around a revolutionary line. It goes out to the world, especially in this age of the internet. It goes all over the place. And then people do want to know, who are those forces that did that? It's not that they all join up with you right away, or that you should bring them fully into the ranks of the revolution right away, before they even have a chance to get a basic understanding of what this revolution is all about. There's work and struggle that has to go on. But you're able to get this dynamic going where you're growing. You're wielding your organized forces for revolution in a way to significantly impact society and drawing people to you, and through struggle, accumulating more organized forces. And then you're able to do more to affect the situation, once again through a lot of struggle. This is a dynamic we have to advance, while once again not narrowing our sights to just that dynamic, but looking at the whole world and how we affect the whole world toward the goal of revolution. This is the correct basis for understanding the point about the thousands and their relation to the millions. It's not just some vague notion of thousands of people who sort of once again go thumbs up on the idea of revolution, or even are very enthusiastic about it. If you're talking about leading millions, you need an organized force of thousands, a growing number of people in the thousands who are oriented, organized, trained, and led to be an actual revolutionary force and pole of attraction. And let me emphasize it again. At this point, even smaller but determined critical masses, particularly in some key areas, with this orientation and approach, acting as part of a national movement, can impact not just people in their immediate area, but also people more broadly in society, propelling forward that dynamic, leading to the situation where there are thousands who are oriented, organized, trained, and led to be an actual revolutionary force and pole of attraction, influencing millions and contributing to the basis to organize millions into the revolution when the conditions for this are ripened. This is all part of a strategic approach of hastening while awaiting the emergence of the conditions to go all out to actually overthrow this system. It is because we need to approach this in a serious and scientific way that we are awaiting, rather than just trying to jump off an arms struggle right now. To quote how we can win on this critical point, now is not yet the time to wage this kind of fight. To do so now would only lead to a devastating defeat. However, as pointed out sharply in the New Communism, this is different than the masses of people rising up spontaneously against their oppressors or defending themselves in a given situation. Anyone with a decent orientation should be able to understand why that is justified. And in today's situation, before the conditions have been brought into being for the all-out fight, we are not and cannot be just waiting passively, hoping that somehow the favorable conditions for revolution will just appear. No, we need to be working actively, vigorously, tirelessly to hasten the development of things toward those favorable conditions. This is what is captured in the formulation, the three prepares. Prepare the ground, prepare the people, prepare the vanguard for revolution. Get ready for the time when millions can be led to fight all out with a real chance to win.
In August of last year, a 17-year-old Trump-loving, cowardly racist punk named Kyle Rittenhouse answered the call of fascist militias to go to Kenosha, Wisconsin, to intimidate and threaten protesters standing up against the police shooting of a black man named Jacob Blake 7 times in the back, in front of his children. Rittenhouse came armed with an AR-15 rifle, and he used this to shoot dead Anthony Huber and Jojo Rosenbaum in the streets and to seriously injure Gage Grosskreutz, all of them heroes for standing up against police terror and white supremacy. For carrying out this slaughter, Kyle Rittenhouse immediately became a hero to fascists and white supremacists everywhere. Fascists and white supremacists, we should note, who are increasingly invading every sphere of public life, threatening and seeking to terrorize all who do not go along with their perverse vision of making America great again. And just last week, a court in Kenosha, Wisconsin, declared Kyle Rittenhouse not guilty on all counts for this crime. Let this fascist killer walk free, and sent a green light to all across this country who would want to act as he did. So to get into this with us today, what's at stake in this verdict and the moment we're in, we're very pleased to have someone who is very close to this case, both through his family and his personal life, as well as through the actions that he has taken to stand up. Justin Blake is the uncle of Jacob Blake, the black man who was shot last August that set off the protests that Kyle Rittenhouse went into and carried out murder and mayhem in the midst of. And he is also someone who has been standing up. He was outside the courthouse every day during the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse, demanding conviction, standing up for justice. And this is very important at a time when there should have been tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands standing up. It was very important he was out there. We're very pleased to welcome you today to the RNL, The Revolution Nothing Less show.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having us.
Wonderful. Justin, I want to start by just asking you to react overall to the verdict, to the not guilty verdict of Kyle Rittenhouse.
It's the most unjust verdict we think in our lifetime that we've personally been able to see and be a part of, that will have the most historical ramifications in our lifetime again. The premise that they set up through allowing this young man to, carry a firearm that's ready, that's military ready in the streets of Kenosha, now set precedent so other 17-year-olds around this nation can do the same. He murdered 2 people and severely injured a third and is going scot-free. 3, if they did it to 2 of our white counterparts, can you imagine what's going to happen in the future if one of these individuals pulls up on a rally of African Americans and melees the crowd, murders over 30 or 50 people that are African descendants? Can you imagine what's going to go on in the United States after that? So that's why we were on the steps of these 2 young men supported our nephew, Jacob Blake, and the horrendous breaking of his civil rights and liberties when he was shot in the back 7 times in front of his children and paralyzed. That's why they were out there in the first place. And so we really are in some serious critical times in this country. We have a president that sold out the families of the Floyds, Bianca Austin and the Taylor family, Jacob Blake, my oldest brother, who the vice president spoke in front of and made promises that were not kept, and has allowed our country to spiral into this racist actions that we see around this country that have there's nothing to prevent it from happening. So anybody on the Proud Boys, Skinheads, Ku Klux Klan, Boogie Boys, or whatever these little names they have for each other these days, seeing this will definitely encourage them and booster their right to go out and do harm to African Americans, minorities, and others.
I wanted to ask you, I did hear you in one of the interviews you did on the day of the verdict. You drew a parallel between this verdict, the not guilty verdict of Kyle Rittenhouse, and the kind of violence that we saw on January 6th at the U.S. Capitol. And in fact, some of those who carried out that attempted coup attempt, that attempted insurgency at the Capitol to keep Trump in power, were wearing Kyle Rittenhouse's name on their T-shirts, chanting his name, this kind of thing. I wonder, this verdict would be a horrible slap in the face to Black people and to everybody who loves justice anytime, but it's coming at a particular moment when we did see a coup attempt where it's connected to a bigger picture. I wonder if you could explain why you made that connection, how you see this larger moment.
Well, I mean, let's look at the bigger picture, as you stated. We had the cute word is insurrection. Anywhere around the world, it's called the coup. I have a passport. I've been around the world a little bit. I know for a fact that this happened in any other country, there would be no insurrection. It would have been called a coup. The most time these people are getting out of this coup that would have taken over the Capitol, that would have taken over our Congress people and our senators and held them until they got what they wanted or possibly harmed them. Some people died up there that were police. How are these people getting out with 2 and 3 years? It shows how much racism is in this system. Because had African Americans been knocking on the door of the Capitol like that, you'd have had to make a cemetery out of that whole front yard. There would have been no question that they'd have found military there. Then they'd have found the military. And they'd have come down there and shot every African American, African descendant that would have been knocking on those doors or harming police officers. I mean, this is absurd. And the problem is with this, that if you don't nip it in the bud, that was just the first act of war. When you have a war, there's steps to war. We already had prior to January 6th, we had laws being challenged. We had the Constitution being broke. We had people, the orange-faced guy in the White House doing everything he wanted with the Russians and everybody else. So this is not, and that's what I was also pointing out to people, you may allow African descendants to be challenged or violated in this type of way, but this will just be the first domino. This is truly an attack on democracy and republic in which we live. And all of this together, when you put it together, are stair steps to all-out race war is what they're trying to get going.
You know, one thing that was so striking, a lot of people have said that the Rittenhouse trial was not about race because his victims were white. And I think what you actually saw was last summer, for one of the rare moments in U.S. history that we need to take note of and make, bring back even more powerfully, is you had a situation where this whole country was split open, including millions and millions of white people and people of all backgrounds and nationalities standing up against police terror and white supremacy. And that was what was put down. That is what was terrorized. So the idea that the victims were white, so it wasn't about racism, is I think that's something that maybe you want to say I'd love to hear you react to.
Yeah, it's one of those things. If you I'm graduated with a political science degree. We love history. We're here to tell you 1940, 1950, 60s, and up to present, they would refer to the white people who support African Americans as nigger lovers. Mm-hmm. If you were caught on the Underground Railroad with African descendants in your cellar, in your farm, or on your property, they would have hung you. They would have killed you and murdered you just as an African American. So those people, again, on the side of right, have been just made this outlandish character person that you're a criminal, you're wrong. It's the boogeyman theory again. And now it's seeping into our Caucasian brothers and sisters that support us, as they just did on these two young men, which was heinous. It's unconscionable that the young men that were out supporting nonviolence and supporting Jacob Blake. And for those who aren't aware, they were peacefully protesting in Civic Park. The police donned guns, shot rubber bullets, shot gas projectiles at these people and flushed them out of a peaceful park speaking situation onto Sheridan Road into the hands of these savages that had these AR-15s and were prepared to use them on people that had no weapons. And it was just a bad cocktail of circumstances that you knew led to nothing good. And unfortunately, it led to the deaths of Anthony and Jojo, who are heroes in our mind.
That's right.
And Gage as well. If there's a shooter after the high school shooting in Colorado, down there in Florida, they're telling you no longer to go in your room and hide, but to aggressively try to smother the shooter. This is what they were doing, sis. This is what they were doing. The police chief, the mayor, all these people have blood on their hands because they mishandled that whole entire night.
This system has white supremacy in its foundation down to today, and resurgent, and male supremacy and terror against the people of the world. And it is actually a system in deep crisis right now. And you said before, what's happening right now is going to shape the future. We're at a pivot point. I very much agree with that. And you could see the contours of a horrendous nightmare fascist future. But on the other side, there's actually the potential in a crisis like this to make, if we get to work on it, if people wake up to the nature of the system and the need to overthrow it, to actually bring it down, to get organized to break free of it. And we saw some of the potential of this in those 14 million people in the streets standing up for Black lives last summer. No, they didn't understand the whole problem or the whole solution. No, they weren't organized. Yes, they're all disoriented right now, and most of them sitting home. But this system has actually got vulnerabilities. And I think this is this is a profound need right now for people to wake up and get organized to overthrow it.
I hope you have us on again, so in the future we can go back and look at people stand up. Where's all those little my white sisters that had on them little pink hats? We need them. They
we
came
do.
in the millions and stood up against the orange-faced dude when he got in office. We need them sisters. You know, Fred Hampton Jr. is a dear friend of ours, and I pointed out at one of our rallies that his pops had, before he passed, had just given a whole bunch of money to the Appalachian whites in Chicago, to the Hispanics in Chicago. It's going to take us all those people whose dreams have been smushed and squashed and squandered because of the people that are in power, and their zealousness to maintain that power has along the way crippled and corrupted those that had dreams as well. Those other citizens that didn't fall into their category. We're always going to carry a mark on our back because of our color, and we can't run from that. That's what this whole damn system was built on. And that's why everybody, when they're rallying, says the whole damn system is guilty as hell. From slavery forward, they made rules and laws and bills that would specifically negatively affect African Americans and those who were caught at a low income level. So it wasn't just African Americans that couldn't own land back in the day. Didn't no white women own no land, and didn't no poor ass white man own no land. So this thread has managed miraculously, because of how embedded racism was in every bill, law, and business that was set up in this country, to survive till today. And the Rittenhouse showed you just how damn well it survived. We know the people, and there's many more out there that yet to draw the strength out of their soul and stand up. There's a tremendous correction that needs to take place here. And it's going to take a big sledgehammer and a lot of people swinging it.
Justin Blake, I want to really thank you for taking the time to talk with us today. I want to send my love and our love to you, your family, to your nephew Jacob, who went through something that no one should have to go through, and especially to his children, who will carry that scar for their lives. But I have to say also that there is nothing more important that you, as someone who loves them and someone who loves oppressed people, could do than to take that horrendous experience and actually turn it into the fight to end this. So I just think that is the most meaningful thing. I want to send you and your family our love, and thank you for joining us here on the RNL, the Revolution Nothing Less show.
Big ups to the red, the black, and the green. Unity now, one Africa. Thank you so much.
Before closing out today's show, I want to take a few minutes to talk about the emergency facing abortion rights in this country. Yesterday, the Supreme Court heard oral arguments over a Mississippi state law that bans all abortions after 15 weeks into pregnancy. This law is in direct violation of the landmark Roe v. Wade decision that established the right to abortion nationwide in 1973. The very fact that the Supreme Court agreed to hear this case is an indication that they are willing to overturn Roe v. Wade, or at least radically undercut it. And thanks to Donald Trump's 3 fascist nominees to the court, they have the votes to do this. Now, what is immediately at stake in this case is whether women will be forced by the state to have children against their will, enslaved in this way to the dictates of a patriarchal, woman-hating society. This fight, which has been escalating for decades, is coming to a head, and nearly every commentator who listened to the arguments yesterday, and I felt this as well, said it's clear that the court is leaning towards gutting this right. If the Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade, immediately abortion bans in 20 states will go into effect. Millions and millions of women will immediately lose access to abortion. Women will be forced to quit school, to stay with abusers, to spiral into poverty, to foreclose their dreams, and many even lose their lives because the state will see them as less important, less human, less worthy of rights and protections than a fetus that is growing inside of them. And this terror and threat of forced motherhood, of being reduced to an incubator by the state, will hang over the lives of all women everywhere, because the fanatical Christian fascist movement that has killed doctors, bombed clinics, terrorized women, packed the courts with fascist judges, and more. This movement is not going to rest with the patchwork of half the country with abortion rights and the other half without. They are going for the kill, and a win in this case will only accelerate their momentum. This must not be allowed. Women are not incubators. Women are full human beings. But in a real sense, as monumental as these stakes are, they are but one part of a larger confrontation that is brewing over the whole direction of this country and the future. We see this not only in this abortion rights emergency, but also in the horrific Rittenhouse verdict we talked about earlier that gives a green light to white supremacist violence. We see this in the coup attempt at the Capitol earlier this year. We see it in the environmental crisis and in many other ways. A declaration, a call to get organized now for a real revolution from the Revcoms put it this way: the crisis and deep divisions in society now can only be resolved through radical means of one kind or another, either radically reactionary, murderously oppressive and destructive means, or radically emancipating, revolutionary means. Yes, revolution. A system that puts the fundamental right of women to decide for themselves when and whether to have a child up for debate is a completely illegitimate system. This system, the system of capitalism and imperialism, should not be allowed to rule over and determine the lives of the half of humanity that is born female, or anybody else for that matter. In contrast, the Constitution for the New Socialist Republic in North America, written by Bob Avakian, lays out a radically different framework for society that we can bring into being through a real revolution. A society where, among other things, the rights of women to determine their own reproductive lives will be guaranteed, and backing will be given to the struggle to completely dig up and overcome all forms of oppression, of women, of Black people, of immigrants, and so much more. This, and nothing less than this, real revolution is what we must lift our sights to and work for now. And this is not some abstract, far-off idea. Precisely because of how extreme things are right now, it is possible that we could ripen and even win a revolution in this period if we confront this reality with open eyes, if we get with the leadership that is being provided to seize on this by Bob Avakian, and if we get to work. As Bob Avakian has pointed to in his piece, this is a rare time when revolution becomes possible. Why that is so, and how to seize on this rare opportunity. Quote, "As the normal way society has been ruled is failing to hold things together, and society is increasingly being ripped apart, this can shake people's belief that the way things have always been is the only way they can be. It can make people more open to questioning. In a real sense, it can force people to question the way things have been and whether they have to stay this way. And this is all the more likely to happen if the revolutionary forces are out among the people, shining a light on the deeper reality of what is happening and why, and bringing out that there is an alternative to living this way. This is what we need to get to work on now. Everybody watching this needs to get together with the Revcoms and grapple seriously with why only a revolution can bring about a positive resolution to this crisis, what this revolution involves, and what kind of society it can bring into being. Work with us to aggressively, tirelessly spread this revolution, let others know about it, and fight to organize them into it. And this includes struggling with people. Stop thinking that the only way you can affect things is trapped within the terms set by this system. And fuck all these voices telling you to prepare for a post-Roe America, telling you the best you can do is vote to protect abortion rights in a few urban areas on the coast, and then pretend you're going to be able to help all the other women travel there. Fascist enslavement is nothing to prepare for or accept. No. Right now, people need to be struggled with, challenged and inspired to stand the fuck up, to fill the streets like they did in Poland and Argentina and other parts of the world where abortion was being denied. And most of all, this fight needs to be taken up as part of building up the strength, the understanding, the courage, the determination, and the organization to make a real revolution. It needs to be part of fighting to repolarize society in a way more favorable for revolution, so that this whole damn system can be defeated and lifted off the backs of humanity at the soonest possible time. The fight for abortion, on demand and without apology, must be waged, and it must be waged as part of the fight to break the chains and unleash the fury of women as a mighty force for revolution. This is going to take heart, but it is possible. And the alternative is unconscionable. So I want to close out this show today by echoing what Andy said earlier. On December 13th, a major new work from Bob Avakian is coming out. It's a big deal. It's providing crucial leadership and direction in this time of unprecedented danger and tremendous opportunity. Its title concentrates what he gets into. It's called Something Terrible or Something Truly Emancipating. Profound Crisis, Deepening Divisions, the Looming Possibility of Civil War, and the Revolution that is Urgently Needed. A Necessary Foundation, a Basic Roadmap for this Revolution, by Bob Avakian, revolutionary leader, author of The New Communism. If there's any way you can possibly make it in person to the Revolution Club meetings being held on December 5th across the country where this talk will be previewed, do what it takes to get yourself there. And if you really can't make it in person, write to us and be part of online sessions digging into this talk that we're organizing soon. And definitely go to revcom.us on December 13th for this talk when it is published. And really go there regularly, including for further coverage of this fight for abortion and how it fits into the fight for the future on Monday morning. So with that, I want to say on behalf of myself and Andy and the whole Revolution Nothing Less crew, spread this show and come back next week. Join with us in being part of wrenching something beautiful out of this horrible nightmare. Good night.